I want to welcome you all to our first live Q&A session. These are really intended to be opportunities for you to ask questions about trouble spots you're encountering with our functionality, as opposed to sort of general, questions you have about ICRIS. If you have questions like that, I think we'd appreciate if you would send those to the ICRIS email. That's icris@ishs.idaho.gov. Or, you can send them directly to me, but I would appreciate it, them going to the ICRIS email. And today, what we want to do is really just give you the opportunity to ask, for assistance where maybe you've encountered some trouble. So leading those question and answer sessions will be primarily Ashley Malloy. Sorry, I missed that. If you could mute, that would be great. Ashley Malloy and Kayla McElrath will be taking the lead on answering your questions today. If you would like, you could share your screen if you're, trying to puzzle through a particular piece of ICRIS, or describe what you're having trouble with, and Ashley and or Kayla can share their screen to sort of help walk you through that. We would like you to please raise your hand and get into the queue for answering questions, as opposed to using the chat. So if you're ready to go, we'll get this thing rolling and see how it works. Hopefully this will be useful for all of you, and if not, we'll kind of adjust moving forward. But go ahead and raise your hand if you have some questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Ashley and Kayla. Thank you.
Go ahead, Audrey.
Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I had some questions about where certain documents should go when putting in a project. So let's get my screen shared here. And just let me know when you can see it.
Okay, we can see it.
Awesome. So I've, started putting in the basics with this project. And the project attachments, I went ahead and put the cultural resource report here. But I guess, is that the correct location? Because then when I went down to enter in the project survey, there's also an area where a PDF is requested. And so I kind of just curious what this attachment here is supposed to be for the PDF, and what we would supposed to be uploading there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really simple question to start off with, which is great. So yeah, all survey reports go in this new survey section here. They don't get uploaded to the project attachment section. When you go to upload the PDF, you'll then be asked to upload the shapefiles for your survey area and delineate what types of surveys they are. Are they like class 3? Are they class 2? Is it architectural only survey? Or maybe there's multiple areas. You could have more than one polygon on that map, just an FYI.
Perfect. That answers that question. Thank you. That's all I had.
It looks like Julie is next.
Hey, hello. I have been working in the ICRIS all day today, and it's been fun. One thing I'm wondering is I am trying to input a large 110 project, and so there were a lot of new sites that were discovered. No problem there. I know how to enter those. When I am trying to enter an update for an existing site, do I input that down in the project resources section under new resource? Or I'm not quite sure how I would go about adding my updates to an existing resource.
Can you share your screen, Julie?
I can try.
Thank you. Okay, so it looks like you've mapped your project area above.
Yep.
And then based on that map location and those buffers, your resources should be populated below. So if something was previously recorded, if you scroll down further, scroll down on the project page. These are the previously recorded resources within your project. So are you missing?
No, everything that's on this list, all of these ones that are here, these are all ones that I have added new to this report.
Okay, so if you go where you see that under project resources, it says created by this project.
Mm-hmm.
And then you click literature review. It'll show you the 30 pages of resources. And if you're working on this project, I would recommend maybe changing your buffers to a smaller buffer so you aren't inundated with 30 pages of resources that might be outside your project area.
And how do I change that at this point?
If you click the shape, like shape 14, or actually, sorry, if you click the actual polygon on the map, and then you can move the buffer. You can just use that. You can, yeah, take that and drag it and then submit. And that will give you less resources below.
Okay, so I've got to go in and do that 14 times now. Okay.
Yeah, that's just like something, if you know you're going to have a lot of resources. And when you're doing research, you know, that 1 mile buffer is really good for looking at what's in your project area or close to your project area, but it could get like slightly inundated with that project resource page below. And just so you guys are all aware, that project resources card that's below, we are adding a search feature so you can type in a Smithsonian number if you know it. So you don't have to go through like 30 pages of resources. And then from there, you can just create a new resource, or not resource, new version below.
And can I just jump in, Ashley, and say that instead of clicking on the map on each shapefile, you can click on the list on the side and kind of just systematically go through so you don't have to move around the map. Isn't that right, Ashley? Yeah.
You can use the zoom to button. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
There's nothing to click on other than that thing. Okay.
And we do have an improvement in our list to be able to rename these shapefiles eventually too.
That would be lovely.
Yeah. But yeah, on that table below, you just on that right hand side of each resource is a create new version, and then a little bit lower beside, so you see 10 CR 1106, and then on the far right it says create new version, and that's what you're doing.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. It looks like we have Joe Ellen next.
Hi.
And you can
Hey, I'll try to share my screen here. Okay, my question is, so I entered this project and I think that all the sites had been entered previously by you guys, so I'm wondering how to link these to my project.
So these ones, to populate how Julie had hers populated, you'll have to draw your project location on the map.
Okay, because then I was trying to do that, like I was trying to draw it on here and well, now it's working. I swear to God, it wasn't working before. Okay.
Yeah, so you can
and
either
then
draw
do the same thing. Okay.
Draw it or upload your shapefile. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And I think I figured it out from Julie's how to do the rest.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Looks like Craig is up next.
Hi. Hey, I had a question as far as like personally I learned by doing it, but I don't want to make a project a real project that you guys have to look at. Is there a way to do that? You know what I mean?
No, not currently. There's not like a dummy project. You can go
Yeah.
in and create a project. The issue is
Uh-huh.
you'll have to assign a lead agency.
Right.
And you could select other state agency as your option. And then we actually have a bug fix in right now to rename projects. So if you accidentally, there's been a few people that have accidentally created a project. So we have a bug fix so you can rename the project and reuse the project once it's renamed.
Yeah. So like if I like wrote in the project name is like junk test, don't use or don't review, something like that.
I would just recommend that you use it later for a real project.
Okay. I just would rather train on my own time than on a project's time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only issue is that when you start manipulating the data, you're manipulating the real data.
Right. Okay. All right. And then I also just kind of, maybe it's not a moot point. Just looking at, I'm just kind of wondering how like a survey, the 1, 2, 3 forms are interacting with the ICRIS, the web version of ICRIS. Is it just like the you know, more administrative data of the site record that's being filled out in the 1, 2, 3, or is it going to be artifacts and that sort of thing? Just because you only have that 250 5-letter character limitation. Am I?
Yeah. So you can view. Have you looked at the app yet?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's only a couple required fields on the app. You don't have to fill out everything, so you can fill out what you want to collect in the field and then whatever else you want to fill out in the office.
Okay.
So you don't need to, if you want to rather like take notes on a notepad out in the field, that's fine as well. I think it's, I believe, mapping it and like naming it, and there's a couple other ones that are required.
Yeah. Okay. So it's more just basic information. More treat it more like a data dictionary type of deal, I guess. Okay.
We tried to limit the fields on the Survey 1, 2, 3 app to the sort of field specific information, that you would want to gather when you're on site, as opposed to, background information or other things that can be easily added, from your desk.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just thinking, if I have a large site, that's going to be eaten up pretty quickly. Okay. All right. Thanks.
And I dropped the link to the Survey 1, 2, 3 forums in the chat if anybody wants to look at those. Looks like Paul is next.
Good afternoon. I'm having trouble. It looks like the only caption or description I can put on a photograph is only on the one that's labeled the overview. So how do I put descriptions of, say I take a picture of an artifact and I want to say that this is FS1 and what it is? Do I have to put that directly onto the photograph?
So no, you can put it either, we actually have an improvement story in for project photos and resource photos. So right now you can only label one of the resource photos with the description. And so we have an improvement to have descriptions for all of the photos. So we recommend either putting something in the file name, or I think Reclamation even recommended uploading just like a photo log with the resource attachments or project attachments.
Yeah, I wondered about that, or even like a contact sheet that was like in PDF that had all the ancillary photos.
Yeah, that would work too.
I wanted to do it in a way that made sense for you. And if there was a way to do the descriptions right on the photographs, I wanted to do it that way since we have a project we've been waiting to put in. And is that how you want the maps handled too? If I want, because you're going to want a sketch map basically attached to the resource record so that a person could print it, right? Like all the things we would have put in a site form before, we still have to submit.
Yeah, so you can upload under resource attachments. You can upload different attachments and select different attachment types, and SketchMap is one of those.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was, I hadn't got far enough to see if the sketch map was a selectable thing. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it right before. Okay, and then I was having trouble. I was making a new resource, and it kept telling me I had not said I did not fill out all the required fields, but I could not find a field anywhere that had an asterisk that I hadn't filled in. Is there any way to make it tell me what it thinks is missing?
Can you share your screen?
I have solved it now, but I can't.
Oh, you. Okay, so
I solved it by re-clicking everything and changing the selection, then changing it back. So I guess all I'm asking is when you click mark complete, right, and it's going to give you your Smith number finally. It gives you that no, you didn't do this little red X, but it doesn't give you any idea of what field you missed.
Okay, yeah, there's certain required fields, and then other fields are just through an asterisk. And I think we have a improvement story to like.
It's going to highlight the one I missed, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one I always miss is the land ownership. That's the one I always seem to forget. So.
Yeah, I think this was in one of the sub uses because you click original use or whatever, then suddenly it requires a sub use. But I had I had something in both, but it didn't like it for whatever reason. But anyway, I did solve it. It just would have been nice for it to say you have a problem. This particular field is missing, or highlight the field that is missing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, we have that. We have that as an improvement. So we noticed that too. It's a little bit hard.
Yeah, it sounds like both things that I needed to ask about are going in for improvement. So, yeah, I'll just for this one, I'll just do my photos the other way.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you, Paul.
Appreciate it.
All right, looks like we have Dana up next.
Hello. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have a lot of great improvements planned. My question, once you've gone in and created that new version of an already in their site, how or do you, I guess, get a final form out of that site form? Like, since we no longer have like a ASI template or anything, is there a way to export so we can put a copy in our records?
That's also a soon-to-be improvement of exporting the resource in a PDF version. So that one is pretty high up on the list for like future improvements, which within the hoping very soon.
Awesome, thank you.
Nikki.
I know you're shocked that I have possibly more questions, Ashley. So one of these is a potential improvement for your guys, filling out archaeological for pre-contact or pre-colonial archaeological sites. There's almost no categories for those types of sites. The only one that really applies is temporary camp. There's nothing like lithic scatter or rock shelter or more traditional ideas, that don't prescribe an interpretation to the data that you might not have enough data to interpret at this point. So I'm wondering if that's something that's coming, because I almost, it's like temporary camp or unknown at this point when we could say something about it.
Yeah,
beyond that.
Yeah, you can also put in the brief description field, like you
Right.
could put like lithic scatter, but I'm gonna let actually Lindsay, I think Lindsay's on here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Answer
I can answer
that.
that question. Yeah, so we decided that, you know, if you take like the category of lithic scatter, there can be a lot of different functional types of sites that fall under a lithic scatter. It could be, an expedient, flint knapping thing. It could be a lithic source material. It could be associated with habitation. So we noticed in the last couple years that when we went into our database and we tried to sort our archaeological sites, that we just really had a mix of kind of function and appearance and things like that. And it really wasn't usable for research, for finding similar sites, for anything like that. So we chose to kind of sort things differently for this iteration. This is definitely one of the areas where, as we use it more, I think we will potentially be adding more categories in. But for right now, we decided that sort of leaving it with these use types would hopefully be the most, I guess, useful way to sort our archaeological site.
Right. Well, I mean, and that said, and I can appreciate that, but I'm not actually seeing uses that really apply to pre-colonial sites in there.
Well, what we've seen is that everyone seemed to click temporary camp for lithic scatters. So is that not how people are interpreting those?
I tend to try not to interpret them if I'm just on a site doing a survey, because usually I don't have enough information to say whether it's a temporary camp or a permanent camp or
that's been
something
sort of
like
how
that.
I interpret them. So I would say in that case, just leave it as unknown, or I don't know that it'll let you leave it blank, but just because we don't know the function of the site yet.
Okay. All right. And then where does the survey 123 data go? I did like a little test one yesterday and I pushed submit and I don't know where it is.
It goes into the cloud, I guess. So when you go to import, if you have your project up and then you're at the resource card at the bottom, it'll say import from survey 123 and all of your resources will show up there.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I have no idea like where to even look for that data. So, okay. But if I have multiple projects, is it going to import all the data from survey 123 into the same project, or how do we keep that separated?
You'll have an option when you go on to load that data into ICRIS to select which sites that you want to import.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any more questions? Oh, Caitlin.
Hey, I am having an issue when I'm creating a new survey. First, my issue was I could get the inventory short form uploaded. But then when I added my surveyed area, I uploaded a shapefile and then it wouldn't allow me to press next. Even though I could see the shapefile in the GIS window, it still said it wasn't appropriate or something like that. But now I can't even get my PDF file for the inventory form to attach. It says that it keeps running into an error. So I was wondering if anybody else had that issue. If I need to be uploading directly from like my computer instead of a box folder.
Is the shapefile zipped?
Yes, the shapefile is it.
You probably have to upload directly from your computer, would be my guess.
Okay.
If you want to try that, and then if you're having other issues, you can share your screen too if you want. We can try to fix it now. But that'd be my first guess.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah, because today the issue's been it won't even get me past this part. Like it's not even trying to upload right now. So I've tried canceling and going back in.
So it looks like that file was not downloaded to your computer and was on the cloud. So I think you're gonna have to download it to your computer.
Okay. I'll try that and then yeah, let y'all know.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just maybe try that and we'll come back to you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Julie, back to you.
Sorry, more questions. On the one of the tabs were for impact agents. There's not a none as a selection. What do you recommend picking until we add none? I've been just picking like structural decay or you know, what the least obvious for the site that I'm trying to note, and then putting a little note in that says there are no impacts. However, I had to select one. Do you guys have a workaround or something you would recommend picking?
I'm gonna toss that one to Lindsay.
Thanks, Ashley. No, I think that works. You know, I think we figured that a lot of them, it would be things like deflation, erosion, just sort of your natural processes that have occurred. So yeah, if that, you know, if picking the one that makes the most sense and then kind of describing how you're not seeing it, I think that's probably the best workaround until we've got that improvement in.
Okay, so just pick something and then describe it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry that it's not a better answer.
And we can add that as an improvement to that field.
That would be great because I've got some, you know, rock shelter sites that there's nothing going on in them. So there's no impacts. So that would be awesome. Thank you.
All right, back to Dana.
Yeah, I was wondering, is it possible to leave a site as unevaluated? I had one that's unevaluated and needs to be tested before it can be, so I was intending to leave it as such, but I kept getting an error that I couldn't mark it as complete. And then I went back and that was the only thing I changed, was changing it to eligible, and then it let me save it. So I wasn't quite sure if that was why it let me or not.
Yes, that was why it let you. And that's one thing that we've been discussing. We discussed with a lot of you guys, maybe not in conjunction with ICRIS, but generally in the last couple of years, is that with some of the PAs and program comments that have been done at the national level, only sites that are determined eligible formally will be protected and considered for impacts under a lot of these agreements. I'm especially thinking of FCC agreements and some of like the the really big multi-state projects that our office isn't really able to consult on, that are kind of done at a national level. You know, talking with most of the land managing agencies, you know, we found that similar to what you're describing, a lot of the time, site, you'll go out there, you'll record what's visible, but for either because of tribal preference or because there's just not a need, you won't test the site, but there is still that data potential there. So that's one thing that with kind of this transition, we decided that those sites, because, you know, we, as a professional out there, you guys are seeing the potential for data. We're going to have those be categorized as eligible, just so that under these agreements from the ACHP, they have to be considered for effects. You know, we know that under Standard 106, unevaluated sites are treated as eligible and protected, but it's just really that nuance of some of those agreements that we feel like we need to make the switch to just considering them or recording them as eligible. And that's something that I almost have a sort of position paper written on to give some more guidance and a little bit kind of more in depth of that that logic and reasoning that we had behind that, because I know that that is, you know, a bit of a change from you know, past practices.
Okay, yeah, I don't use those national, I'm not as familiar with them, but that does, the reasoning makes sense there. My question follow-up then, I guess, is if in the future we are able to actually go out and test some of these and determine that there's not subsurface and stuff like that, is there going to be pushback, or changing those to not eligible is going to be pretty easy to do once the testing's been done?
It should be easy. I don't foresee any reason why it would be difficult. And that's one thing that in the eligibility justification, you know, just put that pending testing, that we really don't know that subsurface component. And then, you know, when you come back in and say, oh, we've done the testing and we found that there was no subsurface. No, I don't foresee us pushing back on, you know, having you guys complete testing and then fully evaluating the site later.
Perfect. And then a more simpler question, I think. I've been having issues uploading photos, and I'm wondering if it's a similar issue to Caitlin where I was trying to upload them off a box drive, or do you know if there is a size limit to the photos that might be causing it?
The size limit for photos, I think, is the same as the PDFs, which is like, or actually it might be 5 megabytes for photos and then 20 for PDFs.
Okay, have you considered, or maybe it's an improvement to increase that a bit? I have a lot of my photos that are just, you know, taken on a tablet in the field and uploaded, but their size is like 6 or 7 instead of 5. And that's probably why I'm not getting them to download.
Yeah, I can see, run that by Shannon and see what, I think our logic was not to take up as much space because we of course have to pay for all the space for this. So I can see if we can increase it a little bit. I know a lot of people's cameras, especially like iPhones and stuff, are you can take 20 megapixel photos. So it's just, I think, a size preference.
Okay, perfect. Or I guess, would you guys just prefer having like a PDF site record or something like that? I guess, what's the preference?
No, we prefer like when you update a resource record, you're required at least 2 photos to complete it. So if you could, yeah, upload 2 photos and maybe resize them before you upload them, and then we'll work on maybe increasing that a little bit.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anybody else have questions?
I had one related to the photos. So will eventually we be able to upload multiple photos at once, or is it always going to be one at a time?
It'll be eventually we have an improvement for batch uploading photos. So
Okay.
it'll be multiple. And that's the great thing if you're recording a new site using the Survey 123, you can upload 5 photos all at once.
Okay.
And then it looks like Daryl.
Yeah, just on your statement that you just made about resizing photos, your previous policy was you didn't want the photos to be edited before submission. Are you saying that it's okay to edit them now?
It's okay to resize them, Daryl, to make them slightly smaller to upload them. I think the issue was like if you went in and changed like contrasts or things like that, or you were cropping them or something like that. But yeah, you can use like if you have Microsoft, you can use like Paint and things like that to save them to a smaller size. But we'll work on getting that slightly increased slightly. Any other questions?
The original size, you wanted the original size photographs, not because we always edit, make them smaller, crop them to put into the reports. But the original unaltered JPEGs were always submitted. But yeah, it makes sense to be able to reduce them in size and save some space.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're good, size quality, like they're not 32 kilobytes where they're like a thumbnail, as long as they're still something that we can view and interpret. All right, Dana, back to you.
Sorry, everyone's comments make me think of other things. Similar to the photo batch uploading, do you guys maybe have any plans to do batch GIS? Maybe like picking a row from a shapefile like we do in our databases, or is it always going to be like individual compressed folders for each site?
That is also an improvement. It's going to be a bigger lift to do that improvement, but it is on our list because we know that you guys want that ability. And we do have on our ICRIS website, we are starting to put up improvements that we're working on. So you can always look there to see what's in the kind of queue. And it's not all encompassing by any means. I added sort of the ones that I think we're going to get to sooner than later. Any other questions? And we'll tell you just a couple tricks. If you have an issue with something, always try to hit the refresh button. That works really well. And then throughout the navigation of the website, you can always hit the back button from your project or your resource. And Nikki, you have another question.
Sorry, I was holding on to this one because it's not a specific troubleshooting question, but we're looking at, starting to use some contractors and things like that. And I'm either missed it, but how does the agency contractor workflow interface within ICRIS? So like, I know that how does that work if you do have if you have some time to talk about that?
Yeah, so there's a couple options. I think a lot of the agencies we heard from, and it depends, I guess, on your workflow, is that the agency wanted to create the project in ICRIS, and then for the submitter or whoever's working on the project, the contractor, you would put their name as the submitter, and then you would hit return project to them, so it would be in their work queue. Vice versa. if you have the contractor create the project and then they identify the lead agency and the lead agency reviewer. Once they are done putting the project together, they will submit it to the lead agency. And then the lead agency will review it. They can either send it back to the contractor for edits, or they could accept what the contractor has done and submit it to SHPO. But the contractor, the submitter, will not be able to submit the project to SHPO unless it's a bypass agency. And there's only a handful of bypass agencies, which are FCC and HUD and FERC. So like if Idaho Power puts FERC as the lead agency, it'll come straight to us. And you can also add, just so if you're working on a project, let's say the transportation department is working on a highway that runs through BLM land, they can put the BLM as a secondary agency. I will say though that the secondary agency can edit the project. So if you don't want them to edit the project, that's just a warning.
Okay. And then as far as like reviewing work products within ICRIS from like between the contractor and the lead agency, is there a way that shows that the lead agency has reviewed it and sent it back to them again? Is that works that kind of the same as that, like return it to the submitter?
Yeah, so when you go to return it to a submitter, it'll pop up with a box of why you're returning it to the submitter. So you can put
Okay.
your reasoning in there. If it's a lot of edits, maybe you want to upload it to project attachments with all of your edits, and that'll be captured on the events log of the project.
Okay. All right. And then if they go, just as an example, if they go in and they create a site record and they mark it complete, and then we review it and we don't think it is complete, does that reopen that version again for them
Yes.
to be able to go into that?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious with how it works that way. I'll stop. Other people have questions.
No, those are all good questions, Nikki. I think that, and that's something I would suggest talking to your contractors about how you want that workflow to work. Other questions? Paul, what's your question?
I was wondering, when you do basically a file search or even within the project, it doesn't look like you get a total number of site forms or total number of reports. Like you would have to go through and count them individually. Is there something that's going to give us a heads up? Like you have 250 site forms in your survey area.
I think actually Shannon may have put an improvement in for that. The other way to do it is going to like the regular just search page, and if you put your AP in there, or your with your buffer, yeah, you can do the CSV download, which is the table, and it'll give you a table of all those. So I know like some people will use that to put into their report template. Then they'll just take that CSV.
That makes sense, because on the file searches we got from you, it was always on the last page of the PDF, like 33 sites, or 15 reports or whatever it was. So, okay. Yeah, I didn't think about the CSV. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And if you're just looking for a number, although this isn't it takes a small bit of effort on your part. If you go down to the list at the bottom, there are 5 resources or 5 reports will show up on a page, and you can multiply that out by the number of pages. I know that's not the most user-friendly, but that is another way to just get that number.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, that makes sense too. I was trying to scope some work really quickly this afternoon, and it was my first time trying to figure out, what our burden was going to turn into. And
Yeah,
it was just
Sure.
one of those things that if it was a little easier, it would have been a little easier, you know? Thank you.
And that's where that the regular general resource or search page with the resource projects and survey search is really helpful, downloading as a CSV. All right, Craig, you have a question again?
Yeah, it's actually following up on Paul's question. Doing the search, I was looking at that and like pulled down the comma delineated spreadsheet. Is there any plans on putting more data into that spreadsheet? Since we can search by, if we're doing a search, we can do it by property type or a site type, occupation, that sort of thing. Is that going to get in there eventually, or are we just going to be clicking on each individual PDF?
You'll have to look at the site or the resource records. The tables has some basic information and you can change what's in the table. I'll show you really quickly here. Let me share my screen. So I just did a search here, a random line on the map in Boise, and you can change what's in displays here. But these are the only things that display on the table. If people find that there needs to be, additional information, I think we are going to add eligibility to this table. That's an improvement for resources. But yeah, we do want everybody to look at the resource records since you have them at hand when you're doing a project. So
I'm just thinking, if I have a large survey and I have 400 records, it'd be nice to get to be able to synthesize that quickly for pre-filled preparation. So you know how
and some of it's just based on the data that we have in the system. So and when the resource record was last updated. But we can, if people find that they want additional columns in here, we can take note and maybe think about what we'd want to add. I think our issue was that it was getting crowded at the bottom.
Right. Well, would there be a way to maybe not do that, not have it there, but maybe when you use your study area to clip your resource records, to have it just download the raw attribute data in the shapefile?
You mean all of the attributes to each resource record?
Yeah,
potentially, I think that would be an improvement later on.
Okay. And then I think I'm not making sense in my text. I'm talking about that primary site type. You guys used to have a table of the definitions of each site type online, and for the life of me, I can't find it. I mean, 90% of that's probably me, but
I can check with Shannon and try to find it, Craig.
yeah. I mean, it was up there like when we first started doing the webinars for ICRIS. It was up there, and then I don't know if it just got left out or what.
Okay, yeah, I can look for it. It might have got shuffled in the updating of the website, so I can look for it.
Cool. Thanks.
Dana.
Yeah, kind of tangential to the ICRIS, with the new report template that you guys put out, is there a way we can get a copy of maybe like a sample one, or in particular the isolate section is what I'm kind of curious on how you want that to look like, with like the table that includes a photo. I'm just not quite sure how to make that look right.
Well, we don't have any samples yet because no one's submitted one. So if you want to maybe fill it out and send it over to Lonnie, we can take a look at it, and maybe Lindsay and Lonnie can make sure that we're getting the correct information.
Or maybe we can sort of dummy up a sample one that we can share with folks to give you that visual of what we want it to look like.
Yeah, I can have Lindsay and Lonnie work on that for you, Dana, and we can get you a sample of something.
Yeah, either way works. It might be a minute till I get a new one filled out, but it would be great to just, at least for like the tables and stuff, to have a little example.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we can work on that. Yeah, that's a change that you don't use the isolate database anymore for isolate. So. Any other questions?
Well, I'm not jumping in, quickly to end this session, but if no one has any other questions, I think we can end a few minutes early. Just a reminder that we will be back, again on Thursday morning to answer more questions from 9 to 10 Mountain Time, and then again in the following weeks the same times, same day, same times until maybe folks get pretty comfortable with it and it doesn't feel necessary anymore, or we evolve this into something else, but. Hopefully you all found this useful today. We are recording this session and we'll post it on our website as we've been in the past. And so if you want to go back and reference that, and we definitely, we heard your request today, and we will be taking this information back and working with our developers to continue to build functionality and make this the most user-friendly application that we can for all of you. So if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and end today's sessions and look forward to.
We have one from Barbara.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, she said her microphone is not working. Hold on one second. Let me find a question. She wanted to ask us about the new guidance for linear resources. I am working on a few projects that have lots of canals. So, Barbara, we have revised our guidance for resources, which I think Kayla put a link. Was it? Yeah, Kayla put a link in the chat. So we're going to continue with mapping county line to county line for resources. But if you do have the length of the entire resource, like if you're pulling it from the Department of Water Resources or something like that, you have the full length of the canal, we recommend uploading that into the ICRIS. As we kind of mentioned before, each of the linear resources are now going to be given one Smithsonian. And with that, one of the benefits of having that information is all merged together, is that each of those canals have one resource record versus maybe 5 resource records if we did it county line to county line. Shannon on the back end, if she finds resources that are the same that might be mapped in Canyon County and Elmore County, but it hasn't been mapped in Ada County, she will try to link those resources up. But we strongly encourage you, if you're pulling GIS data from a current system that has the full length of the resource, to upload that full length of the resource, because that'll help everybody in the future.
And I'll go beyond that and say we'd really appreciate it if you would do that. If you're pulling a portion of the resource, just go ahead and pull the whole thing, because it'll make our jobs a little easier on our end of things. So we'd appreciate it if you could do that as you're working through your projects. So, seeing no more questions, not that I'm trying to jump out and end this quickly, but if we don't see any more questions here, we'll go ahead and end the session, and we'll see some of you maybe back here on Thursday morning. So thank you all.